appreciate. I just want to say that it was just a great time for me to come visit your classroom, and I know I need to be from a supervisor standpoint, but as just a teacher trying to perfect my practices, it was just a great time to observe your lesson. So I just wanted to say thank you for that and for you to be so flexible. So, okay, so our purpose for today is to focus on the lesson and on your instruction and how students were involved with the lesson. Our ultimate goal will be to develop ideas on how to enhance our student achievement. So I've kind of just scripted out my lesson, scripted out this conference just so I can go back and improve my craft.
Okay.
So I want to kind of review the conference cycle. I'm just going to ask you some few general questions about the lesson. Then we're going to go into strengths, your area of refinement. Then we're going to go into your idea of area reinforcement, refinement, and then we're going to close it together. So, all right. So if you could reteach this lesson, what do you feel like you would do the same? Remember? Oh, yep. Okay, it was the Wrangler Camp lesson where you had the Jeopardy.
Yes,
the Jeopardy game, and I came in on round 2.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. So review. Yes.
The reviewing of language skills or reading skills. The one thing that I did not do enough prep is that I should have done beforehand is that there was some computer technology glitches in there that the game wasn't working like it should have. So I should have gone through, I did go through the questions because it was a PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
I did go through the questions on the PowerPoint, but I didn't go through to see if the links to actually play the Jeopardy and play the whole Jeopardy all the way through.
Yes.
So that's the one thing that it was like, oh crud, I just bought this and I thought it was working and the questions were great and they were rigorous enough, but then there was a couple computer challenges that caused it to not work like it should have been. So that's the one thing that I should have done some more investigation on.
Okay, so I want to talk about, you asked like a variety of questions throughout your lesson to check for understandings. And so going back, I remember like, are those the elements of text? Is that what you would call that overall general lesson? Well, you asked, questions that were on the knowledge and comprehension level that led students to review, because this is what it was. It was a review lesson, correct?
Right.
And so things like, well, how do you know it was a cutout? What led you to, that thinking of why was it a cutout? Or then I remember one where it had a title, text features. It had a title and a subheading. And you asked, okay, what's the difference between the title and the subheading? How do you know? Or when you talked about words that are italicized, and you just kept, asking those type of questions. Well, when do we see those italicized questions? So that was just a great strength of, they were going on what they previously learned.
Right.
And
that's a low testing area. It's always, for some reason, text features always scores low, even though we have gone over it since the second 6 weeks. So as much as rehashing and revisiting and reviewing and everything to get it back into their brain just so that they realize that it's going to be in a lot of nonfiction.
So how do you communicate your expectations to your students for that lesson or for any lesson?
I guess just the opening of today, this is what we're going to do, and then the purpose of why we're learning, like with the text features, that they need to understand that nonfiction has these different parts of literature that gives them more information that is not typical in reading paragraphs or sentences that they're used to. And as a third grader, they may not have had a lot of exposure to nonfiction, that they don't realize how important these text features are to help them gain knowledge of what they're reading about.
Right. That is so pivotal. Yes. Okay. And I really wanted to ask you this. So how do you make decisions about the types of technology or visual tools that you use during the lesson? So I remember that you had your PowerPoint, and then you had a word bank on the table.
Yes.
And then you have your word wall. So what
Yes.
made you make those decisions, or how do you make those decisions when you're
Well,
planning?
I had the word bank in that particular group because it was a lower performing group. However, when I had the higher performing group, I pulled that word bank. They didn't get the word bank. They had to recall on memory, just to kind of fit the needs of the students for that particular subject. Technology, just kind of whatever I can find or create to fit a certain skill or concept, just to keep them engaged instead of always doing pen to paper.
Okay. Why do you feel it's important to provide wait time for the students? Because I know you had the music for wait time. Why do you feel like that is important?
Just to give them more thinking time, because that's one of my pet peeves, is that blurting out, they don't think, and they don't think when they're reading and trying to get them just to slow down and to really absorb the question that's being asked and underlining the importance, the important words, or that's what I'm going to be really focusing on the rest of the year. Is before we go back into the passage, we have to understand what the question is asking, or we don't know what we're looking for. I'm kind of going with a map. If you need to get to Dallas, you can't just start walking. You got to know where you're going in order to get to your final destination, and trying to get them to understand that is, I think, will help them slow down and not rush through, and hopefully have success for them.
And I want to, so I know it's different for us to do it right now as we're communicating, because usually you would get that response from your supervisor and it would provide evidence. So I just want to share a couple things for the evidence that, we've kind of talked about. Like your question prompts, you were asking them like, well, this is a table. Why is it a table? Where else have we seen tables in our content? And so I really appreciated the fact that you linked, the difference between, a table in English language arts to a table in math.
Because that's one of the areas you guys struggle with.
Right. And yes, that is overall, yes.
Yes.
And then in your balanced wait time, so you kind of, if a student group was, on task and staying focused, and they were really just getting it like that, I could see how, your wait time was a little bit shorter or a little bit longer for your different groups. So that was definitely a positive. That was just great to see, especially with your music, and you had control of that too. And then how I want to refocus on your technology. You even created like hyperlinks. I guess I'm not completely knowledgeable on some of your teaks, where hyperlinks, so that's something like we take for granted of we already know, and they just already know, but that was awesome too. And how you cycled back in, a picture of our capital and with a caption underneath it. What else can we infer? Well, we have the words, but what can we infer from the picture too? So that was really great. So I wanted to ask you a few more questions. Well, how did you plan for differentiation for this activity with that group?
Differentiation for that group was, there's two groups that are struggling just with reading, and so that's why the word bank was provided, just to help them recall. We have visual aids in the classroom that have been referred to throughout the year, and hoping that every time it's discussed in all reading classes and science classes, that anytime the opportunity comes up, oh look, here we have a diagram of a microchip that's implanted in a dog. Why is this a cutout, or why is it labeled? And just so that it's ongoing, because that type of skill is going to continue with them, doesn't matter what grade level. So the differentiation part, I guess, would have been the word bank for them. Just having the higher performing students to recall on memory, whereas not just giving them the word bank.
So I wanted to ask, how did you develop or select your instructional strategy to teach these elements of text? Like, how did you plan on this? It would be a PowerPoint in groups.
I just I like to change it up a little bit. We've been looking at books. We've been doing research with books. We've been having media class with text features. We've had scavenger hunts with text features. So just trying to change it up just to kind of keep them engaged.
If there was one thing that you could change about the lesson overall, what would be the number one thing that you would do differently?
In addition to the thing to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, be quiet.
Can I take this with me?
Yes. One thing I would change, I guess just the making sure that all the links work.
The links
it was
work.
downloaded correctly, I guess. So I think it was a really good game, and since it was Wrangler Camp, it allowed me to. We have a little bit more. Bye, babe. Have a good weekend. We have a little bit more time than we do with whole group instruction in class. So that's kind of another reason why I chose the Jeopardy, because in class, as a whole group lesson, we only have about 20 to 30 minutes, and that obviously took longer than 20 to 30 minutes. So I felt that Wrangler Camp was the best opportunity to do that activity, and it was fun for them, different, and I don't know if I answered your question.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Okay.
All right. If you were to, I want to ask you one more. If you were to give this lesson to another teacher and they taught it and their students were still struggling with the concept, how could you encourage that, or yourself or another teacher? What would be your next point? Like, what would you
if
do
they were
after
still
that?
struggling
Student-
with text features, we would definitely have a variety of nonfiction literature for them to individually go through and look at. Okay, everybody find the heading. What is the purpose of the heading? Definitely have small groups with text features, have lesson with sticky notes, and maybe do it the reverse, have them do sticky notes, and then they would label the different text features that they would find in the nonfiction to kind of check where they are on their knowledge, and maybe give them, okay, these are what we're looking for, maybe a list of 10 text features that we're looking for that I know is in this book, and I need you to find them with a sticky note and label it. You just reteaching with a small group, probably.
Alrighty, all right, and that's gonna be it, because I'm not gonna